Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today I have what I'm sure is going to be a very divisive video, but it's a video that needs to be made, and it's a video that I've been putting off for quite some time now. For those who don't know, yesterday Activision held their Q1 investors call, and in there they revealed a lot of very interesting information about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. First and foremost, statistically, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is the most successful game in franchise history. This is true in the two most important categories for a game. Modern Warfare 2019 to date has sold more copies than any other Call of Duty game ever, which is mind-blowing, and it also has more players online than any other Call of Duty game to date. This means that Modern Warfare is a runaway success that has millions upon millions of people playing it, and presumably they're also enjoying the game, but I'm not one of those people, right? I actually uninstalled Modern Warfare about a month ago on my stream, actually, and I have no intentions of going back. It's no secret that I have been highly critical of Modern Warfare right from the very beginning, but at the same time, it is important to point out that I've also praised it quite highly for the things that it's done for the Call of Duty scene, as well as the Call of Duty community as a whole. Make no mistake, I absolutely love all of the outside systems that Modern Warfare has to offer. I love that exclusivity is basically gone with a few exceptions. I love that DLC maps are given out for free for everyone on every platform at the same time. I also love that post-launch weapons are free via the Battle Pass and can be unlocked via playtime. Even if you miss the Battle Pass, you can still unlock weapons from previous seasons by simply completing challenges. All of those systems are fantastic, and in general, I like the Battle Pass system because it's one of the few things that are worth actually grinding out for in Modern Warfare, and in general, there are lots of things I like about the game that I hope to see in all future Call of Duty titles. The problem, however, at least for me, is the core gameplay design. This has been an issue with me ever since the beta. I remember playing the beta on PlayStation 4 when the game first came out, and I absolutely hated what I saw, and then I gave the game another chance with the Xbox beta, before ultimately uninstalling the game with no intention of playing Call of Duty at all this year. What that was going to mean for my channel, I have literally no idea. Some of you may remember, right after the beta came out, I basically just disappeared. I didn't upload a single video to my channel for an entire month, and that's because I had no idea what I was going to be doing, because I did not enjoy the new game whatsoever, and I wasn't sure what kind of content I should be posting to my channel at that point. Some of you may remember that I was literally the first person to find the quote-unquote bug that showed a supply drop as a level up unlock during the beta. This image, as well as this video that I posted to Twitter, ended up making the rounds on the internet, and it was even covered by many news sites like Charlie Intel and Polygon, and for me personally, that was basically the last nail in the coffin. Not only was I dreading the core gameplay design of Modern Warfare, but then it appeared that supply drops were going to be returning, and we were going to have yet another year of the same old exploitative business practices that Activision is known for, so I was basically just done. I stopped uploading to the channel, and while I was trying to figure out what to do next, I ended up going out and finding another job for the first time in like 9 years or so, right? I was basically just done with YouTube for a year, but then something really interesting happened. Whether the supply drop unlock that I found was a bug showing some old assets, or maybe it just came down to a change of heart from Activision, when Modern Warfare finally came out, the full release that is, the game did not have supply drops. The game instead had the system that I described earlier with a battle pass, free DLC maps, free DLC guns, and little to no exclusivity, and this had the entire Call of Duty community hyped, myself included, because I've been discussing removing those systems for years and years and years on the channel. I have hundreds of videos dedicated to Activision and their business practices, and so when they finally had a change of heart and they finally got rid of all those things, I decided to pick up Modern Warfare and give the game another chance. While Modern Warfare does have some redeeming factors in the multiplayer, like the silky smooth gameplay and the beautiful look of the game, the rest of the multiplayer has still left me wondering if Infinity Ward cares at all about the old school player base, or if they really are just committed to abandoning that audience and focusing on bringing in an entirely new one. Some of you may remember this Game Informer interview where the developers explained that literally everything in the Modern Warfare multiplayer is designed so that new, lower-skilled players can succeed by camping, essentially, right? And that may sound like I'm exaggerating, but please take a listen for yourself if you haven't heard this already, or maybe for some of you that have heard this already, take a refresher listen and really think about all of your own particular gripes with Modern Warfare and how they are caused by what this man is about to say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things we really want to do with this game is we want to get new players in the game, and we want them to kind of like, we don't want them to just get punched in the mouth over and over again until they leave. We want a healthy ecosystem. We want a lot of players in and having fun, and that's a big focus for us. It's a big focus for us in weapon design. It's a big focus for us in level design. Our weapons are a bit more lethal than they were in the Black Ops, the recent more Black Ops, and that helps a lower skilled player get a kill when they otherwise wouldn't, have some success, and then feel like now there's a desire to get better and to get another kill. Our maps are a little bit more porous, and we want those players to have a safe place to take their time, to learn how to turn and move and then shoot, put those pieces together, and then they see someone and be like, oh, okay, now I can do this. So yeah, it's a big focus for us.
But that approach that you're describing there isn't going to come at the expense of the hardcore players, right?
That's not the plan, right? But we want to make sure that we don't want someone who's how to say this, lower skill to have a bad experience. We want someone who's higher skill to have a bad experience, and so we have to make choices in how we matchmake for that. And that's something that we put more focus on this game than we have in other games.
When I listen back to that clip, it really does bring to light all the problems that I have with the core design of Modern Warfare's multiplayer. With a few exceptions, the map design in this game is hands down the worst in the franchise for me, and that's saying something considering I've played every single Call of Duty and every single Call of Duty map that has been created ever since 2007. The maps are so ridiculously dense, with dozens of windows and doorways everywhere, and on top of that, sound design is really good, but in a sense, the sound design is so good that it's actually bad, because default footstep audio is so loud and clear, you are actively punished for trying to move around each of these multiplayer maps, and keep in mind, dead silence is not a perk, it's a field upgrade, which means you barely have access to it. The maps are basically designed for people to sit in buildings, and even when you know exactly where the enemy player is and you try to get the one-up on those players, they hear you coming from about 30 feet away, and they can prepare for you with either claymores, their incredibly overpowered shotguns, or even their full-auto assault rifles that have a time to kill of less than a quarter of a second. In a lot of ways, the Modern Warfare multiplayer accomplished exactly what it set out to do. It created maps that were littered with safe spaces for new players and old players alike to hide on, with the core strategy for success being camping as hard as you can and melt anybody who dares try to move within your sightline. This is probably my biggest problem with Modern Warfare as a whole. I find it to be really boring, right? Now, obviously, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and feel free to disagree and leave your thoughts down in the comments, but when I play the Modern Warfare multiplayer, I don't find myself having fun. Hell, I don't even find myself getting angry. I find myself getting to be so mind-numbingly bored that, if anything, I walk away from each gameplay experience with a feeling of apathy. That is the worst thing that a video game can do to a player, right? Best case scenario, the game is always fun and the player base in general is just enjoying themselves. To a lesser extent, another scenario is the game has a mix of highs and lows, which we've seen a lot of that in the Call of Duty franchise. Sometimes players are going to feel ecstatic and they're really going to be enjoying their experience, or other times they're going to be feeling frustrated, but the worst case scenario is when players are just completely indifferent to what is happening while they play. Video games and media in general should evoke at least some sort of emotion from the people that are consuming that content, because when the product fails to do that, then they have completely lost engagement from their consumer, and that's where I currently am with Modern Warfare 2019, and to be honest, that's pretty much where I've been ever since the beta. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but I'm sure there's also a number of people watching this video that agree with me as well. On top of everything, I don't see anything in the game that would possibly rebuild my excitement to want to come back, because we've now played through 3 seasons and nothing that Infinity Ward has added has been able to revitalize the game for me. As an old school Call of Duty fan, you would think that I would love them bringing back classic Call of Duty 4 maps, but Infinity Ward has systematically ruined each and every one of them in my opinion. Crash is probably the best of the bunch, but when it comes to Vacant and Backlot, they took iconic, time-tested, beloved multiplayer level designs and completely shit on them by removing certain areas, adding new buildings, adding windows and doorways where they have no right to be. They've added new parking lots and tons of new safe spaces for players to hide in.
Hi, Joe.
I don't want to live anymore.
What's wrong with more buildings, Joe?
Indoors.
I see nothing wrong with it. Joe, you can't just kill yourself.
After a while, I basically just found myself feeling disappointed with each new Modern Warfare season. During Season 2, I sought out to complete every single officer rank challenge and really give the game a proper chance, but in that time I realized just how shallow the Modern Warfare progression system is. Now look, every Call of Duty game is shallow when it comes to long-term progression. I can make an entirely separate video discussing that. Each game, to a lesser or greater extent, has pretty bad progression if you really think about it, but I feel as though Modern Warfare takes the cake when it comes to not having any real long-term goals for the player base. For starters, the lack of a prestige system was a mistake from day one. Leveling up to 155 every season does not take very long whatsoever, and once you hit that level, you essentially have nothing to work towards until the next season rolls around, at which point you just do it all again. You do get a weapon variant for hitting 155, which is nice, but aside from that, you really have nothing to work towards besides weapon camos, which have been a feature in every Call of Duty game except for one since 2007, and then of course you have the officer rank challenges that award you an animated emblem. When it comes to the weapon camo challenge system, I find that these are the most tedious, mind-numbing challenges that the series has to offer. The tried and true headshot system is there, but to unlock gold for every single submachine gun, for example, in total you have to put in 3,000 kills, including 600 headshots, 660 kills while crouching for some reason, 600 hipfire kills, 300 long shots, 300 kills while mounted up against a wall or another piece of cover, 240 kills immediately after reloading, and then so on and so forth, right? I'm all for challenges taking a long time, as long as the reward at the end is worth it, but in my subjective opinion, Damascus is right up there with Chrome from Call of Duty World War II as one of the most lackluster endgame rewards available. To get the Damascus camo, which again in my opinion isn't really even all that great looking, you need to get a minimum guys, of 3,100 kills while crouching, and 1,580 kills while mounted. Let that sink in for a second. It doesn't seem like a whole lot when you're doing each of these guns individually, but keep in mind, this isn't even taking into account things like long shots, hipfire kills, headshots, going for streaks, and things like that. Damascus is a really long grind. Sure, that's a given, but worst of all, it causes core game modes to be even more campy because each player that plays this game that is going for Damascus needs to get over 3,000 kills while crouching around the map and over 1,500 kills while mounted up against cover and not moving whatsoever. The game is already designed to be really slow, but then these challenges inherently are slowing down the player base even more by forcing them to barely move whatsoever. For this reason, a lot of people simply resort to playing these small map playlists, which is yet another issue that I have with this game. Now don't get me wrong, I'm all for traditionally small maps like Nuketown, Shipment, Rust, so on and so forth, but I have a theory when it comes to this regarding Modern Warfare. Whenever the small playlists are removed for one reason or another, all you see on Twitter and Reddit is people crying out for those playlists to return. I think this is due to two main factors. Number one, they just simply want to mindlessly work on weapon camos and officer rank challenges without having to really try whatsoever. Or number two, I think they don't really care about the core multiplayer all that much whatsoever. Take a look at Shipment, for example. This is hands down, objectively, the worst map in Call of Duty history. This is not to be confused with the original Shipment or the World War II version of Shipment that we saw, because those are actually good maps that have a semblance of control that can be played in such a way that a good player can dominate every single time. The version we see here in Modern Warfare 2019 is not good. It's designed for players with an IQ lower than their shoe size. You are constantly spawning in front of or behind enemy players. 90% of your kills and your deaths are not the result of you as a player, but rather you just being at the mercy of the spawn system, right? Despite all of this, however, players love Shipment. They adore Shipment, and they celebrate every time it returns to the game. But why is that? I feel as though it's because the vast majority of the Modern Warfare player base simply just want to complete their challenges, and they don't care how many kills they get, they don't care how many deaths they get. To them, it's the video game equivalent of junk food. They're just there mindlessly shooting people as they spawn because it's the path of least resistance when it comes to unlocking the things that they're going for. Now, the question is that necessarily a bad thing, right? Is it bad that they have created these tiny maps solely for the completion of challenges? Well, no, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but at the same time, it does take away from the core Call of Duty experience that helped the franchise get to where it is today. While people have always found ways to complete challenges quickly, whether it is grinding in hardcore, or even going back to cage match boosting in Call of Duty 4, or tac insert boosting in games like Modern Warfare 2 or Black Ops 2, at least back then, when people weren't boosting, players completed challenges while playing the entire game. Whether that was playing domination and trying to hold objectives while learning lines of sight and holding map control, or even playing free-for-all and learning map hotspots and spawn locations, players were constantly improving as players while also working towards their weapon camo challenges, and they were also experiencing a lot more of what the game had to offer. They were experiencing all of the maps and a lot of the different game modes. In Modern Warfare, we don't see that. We don't have the numbers to back this up, obviously, because Activision and Infinity Ward have been hiding player counts ever since Call of Duty Ghost, but it does seem like the vast majority of the player base simply likes to play the entire game on a total of 3 maps: Shipment, Shoot House, and of course Rust. The next issue that I have isn't exclusive to Modern Warfare, but rather it's a problem that I have with the Call of Duty franchise as a whole. With annual game releases, and yes, Call of Duty 2020 is still scheduled to release this fall, Activision did announce that yesterday. With annual releases like this, there is an inherent flaw with Call of Duty's long-term progression system. With everybody who enjoys Modern Warfare constantly grinding for Damascus and the new Obsidian camo, this brings up the point that literally none of this is going to matter in just a couple of months. Over the years, the Call of Duty developers have added a number of endgame camos and Prestige Master ranks, but literally none of them matter when the next game comes out. Despite these Prestige icons and these camos being unique to each individual game, nothing carries over from game to game, despite systems like your Call of Duty account being in place, which keeps track of all your progress across all of the Call of Duty games. I am firmly in the camp that if somebody earns Damascus in Modern Warfare, that camo and that camo alone should carry over into Call of Duty 2020 and all future games that that player plays. The functionality is there, and last year it was revealed by Activision that all of the Call of Duty developers are now working more closely than ever on all of their projects. They are constantly talking to all the other dev teams. Way back when, if you want to go like way back in time, Infinity Ward and Treyarch were basically like these two separate entities that kind of just ignored everything that the other studio is doing, right? But these days, Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Phoenix, all these studios are constantly working together on pretty much everything, which is why you see that Treyarch helps out with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. No doubt Infinity Ward is going to have at least some hand in Call of Duty 2020. All of the developers are constantly working together, so why is it that the things that we earn in Black Ops 4, for example, don't carry over into Call of Duty Modern Warfare? Why is it that things in Modern Warfare are likely not going to carry over into Call of Duty 2020? It does not make any sense to me whatsoever. There is absolutely no reason why players who earned, say, Dark Matter in Black Ops 4 should not be able to use that camo in Modern Warfare as well as in Call of Duty 2020. If they were to implement a system like this, it would give players more incentive to grind out the hardest challenges in the game, and it would also add prestige to the players who have been playing the series for years, as well as it would add a feeling of continuity in between each game. Imagine if right now in Modern Warfare, you were playing the game and you ran into somebody who was using the Dark Matter camo from Black Ops 3, or maybe even the Exclusion Zone camo from Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Having those camos in the game would not take away from the game itself, right? There's still going to be new camos with each new Call of Duty title, but having camos from older Call of Duty games is not going to take away from that, because again, I'm only talking about the final camo. I'm not talking about earning gold in Call of Duty World War II and having that carry over into each individual game. I'm talking about the end camos, Dark Matter, Exclusion Zone, Chrome, things like that. If those camos were to go from game to game, it would add a prestige system essentially across all of the different Call of Duty titles, and it still would not take away from the current Call of Duty games, because even though, say, you have Dark Matter from Black Ops 4 in Modern Warfare, you may still feel incentivized to grind for Damascus, because you're going to want to have Damascus for this game as well as all future Call of Duty titles. It just makes so much sense if you really think about it, and on top of that, I really feel as though the Call of Duty developers really need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to player rewards, because in my opinion, earning an emblem for doing all of the officer rank challenges within a given season is simply not enough, and even going back to games like Black Ops 4, earning a simple calling card for doing 100% of the game's multiplayer challenges is laughable at best. That is horrible. What kind of a reward is that? I have no idea how they thought that was possibly a good idea. But getting back on topic here, guys, I feel as though the reward systems in Modern Warfare are lacking, like they are in pretty much every Call of Duty title. And for me personally, the game just doesn't have enough going for it to pull me back in, since I don't enjoy the core gameplay either. I don't enjoy the core gameplay, and there's nothing there progression-wise to keep me grinding, so I really have no reason to go back and play the game, right? It's for all these reasons I decided to uninstall Modern Warfare, and I have no intentions of going back unless a complete multiplayer overhaul were to come out like we saw Sledgehammer do back with Call of Duty World War II. Now, some of you may be asking, what does this mean for the channel? Well, for one, it definitely means there's going to be a shortage of videos until we start learning a lot more about Call of Duty 2020. That's just a simple fact of life when it comes to this. The leaks and rumors are suggesting that the reveal is going to be sometime this month, which is definitely exciting, and Activision has confirmed once again that the game is still set to be released this fall, so chances are we're going to be learning a lot about Call of Duty 2020 in the coming weeks and months. But in the meantime, I've been spending a lot of my time streaming over on Twitch, so feel free to check that out if that's something that interests you. But keep in mind, I also have plans for videos surrounding older Call of Duty titles that are going to be going up here on the channel until we get closer to Call of Duty 2020. As a content creator, I understand that it's in my best interest to just lie to you guys and pretend that I love Modern Warfare and pump out video after video, but that's not who I am, and that's not someone I ever want to be. I feel like one of the reasons why my channel has maintained somewhat of its longevity over the course of the 9 years almost I've been posting videos is because I don't bullshit you guys. If I like a game, I make content for it. If something bad happens to the Call of Duty franchise, I call out the developers and Activision themselves. If something good happens, I praise Activision and the developers themselves, right? I judge every bit of news and every single update day by day, right? It all depends on what comes out, and I give you guys my honest, unfiltered opinion on things, and I can't sit here and pretend and put on a persona that I love Modern Warfare just because I can make a lot of money by doing that. While obviously I'm taking a huge hit financially as somebody who has a lot of bills and a mortgage to keep up with, I would still rather suffer through all of that while still being able to stay true to myself and to the people that have been watching my content for years. I can't put on a persona, I can't lie to you guys, I can't bullshit you guys, and I'm not going to. I sincerely apologize for the lack of videos on the channel, especially for those of you who really enjoy the content I put together, but that's where we are with Modern Warfare 2019. As always, I have high hopes for the new Call of Duty game. I go into every new COD excited as ever, hoping it's going to be the game that we all hope it's going to be, and hopefully the game that we all deserve. And as always, I'm going to be waiting for every bit of information as well as the official reveal. I'm going to be covering absolutely everything in regards to COD 2020. But until then, again, I still have a number of video projects projects coming that I think you guys are going to enjoy. And hopefully that's going to be enough until we learn more about Call of Duty 2020. Because again, I can't put on that persona. I can't act like I enjoy the game when I don't. That's just not who I am as a person. I want to sincerely thank you all for sticking around with me and supporting me over the past few months. It's definitely been a really rocky time for my channel, and I sincerely thank each and every one of you who have stuck around. But for right now, I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and hopefully it did provide some insight as to why I decided to put Modern Warfare on the shelf. And I would love to hear what you guys think about this and your feedback down in the comment section below. So please leave your thoughts and feedback down there. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.